Honest, remember? Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 1782 of What You Up To Now, documenting the journey as I transitioned originally from the brick and mortar corporate world of business to the online world of business. And then with the pandemic and 2020 and all the craziness, a little bit of back and forth again. I decided, hey, I like being on the online world and I'm glad I was online when the pandemic hit. But I also know that there's a whole lot of businesses that need help. And so I want to be involved with both type businesses, and every business offline needs to figure out what they're going to do to have an online presence. That's my personal belief. Everybody doesn't believe that, but I think that people have to be able to find us, and with cell phones and how much we use our cell phones and our smartphones these days, we have to be able to be discoverable by people. People want to check us out before they ever do business with us, as they should. Now, our questions for the BU 365-day challenge today were, is honesty always the best policy? And what does it feel like to remember? And when I first read the what does it feel like to remember question, I thought, well, that's a silly question. And then I started thinking about, well, what does it feel like to remember? A lot of times when you remember something or relive a memory or are triggered to remember an experience that you've had, it triggers those original feelings that you had when you first experienced that thing. So this time of year, especially with Santa Claus, we remember a lot of things. I don't know about you, but I have a lot of awesome memories about Christmas and smells. You know, baking cookies or caramel rolls or anything can trigger some of the best memories of my life, which is always fun and always awesome. So we talked about, that's one of our questions. What does it feel like to remember? And I asked ChatGPT, the AI that, you know, whenever anything comes out, new science, new technology, new anything, people are on both sides of the fence, right? Oh, I hate it. It's always wrong. What do you do when it's wrong? And I'm like, well, guess what? Sometimes we ask Google something and we get crazy responses and we get to sort through them. AI just sorts through all the crazy responses and tells us the crazy right up front, which I actually think is better, because whatever we read, whatever we experience, we should be filtering through our own brains and our own thinking and saying, does this make sense? Does this seem right? Does this feel right to me? And if it doesn't, then it's probably the wrong answer, at least the wrong answer for you, whether you got it doing your own homework and research or you got it from a tool like ChatGPT. To me, ChatGPT is just one more tool to have in our toolbox, just like Google and the other search engines and the internet itself, right? It's just a tool to get access to a bunch of different information and ideas, but it's up to us to think about those things and say, all right, just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. Just because it's on TV doesn't mean it's true. Just because you heard it in a podcast or you heard people talking at the store or one of your friends told you it doesn't mean it's true. So always filter things through your own higher intellect and critical thinking. All right, lecture over. So, is honesty the best policy? Always the best policy. Now, whenever there's an absolute, I automatically get a stop sign in my face and a red flag, right? Now, if you want to be on Santa's good guy list, honesty is probably always the best policy. If you're teaching your kids the difference between right and wrong, I think you better set a good example and you better be honest and authentic and truthful and upfront with them, clear in your communication and expectations, etc. But we talked about honesty, the best policy, as our idiom for supersize your business. And because it just so happens that honesty is the best policy is also an idiom. Now, it's been around for a long, long time. It's mostly accredited with Sir Francis Bacon because he used it in a work called On Truth in the 17th century. But I'm sure it was used before then and thought about before then. And lots of famous people have talked about the importance of honesty and integrity. Now, again, whenever I hear an absolute like always or never, it raises an immediate stop for me. It didn't always do that, right? But now it does. It's like, okay, if I hear an absolute term, everybody, all, nobody, you know, or never, or always, or a word like that that's an absolute. I remember the absolute signs in math, and I'm like, there were only a few things that were absolute. And so, is this true? Is it true all the time? Is it true for me? Those are the three questions that triggers for me. So if I say honesty is always the best policy, I believe it's super duper important, and honesty and integrity are one of my core values. But I also know just because I believe strongly in honesty and being open and upfront with people does not mean that everything that pops into my head needs to come out my mouth, especially with no filter. We can do that, and some people might respect that, but I think other people might just think you're an a-hole because everything you think and you spit out of your mouth at other people. And a lot of times how we feel about something or what we think about something is none of anybody else's business but our own. I feel that way about religion and politics and things. My beliefs are my beliefs. Your beliefs are your beliefs. It doesn't really matter what our beliefs are if our overarching goal together is consistent with all of our core beliefs or all the people involved's core beliefs. So I actually think this is a great topic. I could probably expound on it for a day or two when it comes to honesty, integrity, and why it's important. I shared 4 reasons contributed by ChatGPT, the AI, that I thought were good. Again, I asked the ChatGPT the question, how does honesty impact growing and building and supersizing your business? And it gave me 4 things. 4 things I've talked about before, 4 things I believe to be true. And so I shared those 4 things. But I filtered the tool's response through my own critical thinking and my own experience before I shared it in my content. So I think that's a critical thinking strategy that we should all be using, especially nowadays when there's so much misinformation from sources we used to trust and believe in. Some of the biggest perpetrators of the misinformation are the very entities and institutions I grew up believing in 100% and trusting, and only to find out that time and time again there was propaganda and lies being given to me. And I learned a long time ago to keep asking questions and apply critical thinking if I wanted to get the best result, make the best decisions and best choices for me. Because although I think it's important to be honest and have high integrity, everybody on the planet doesn't, right? We see examples of it every single day in the media and in politics and in even religious organizations we believe that should be above board and of high moral value and ethics, and all the time in many industries. And again, I mentioned in Supersize Your Business Day, there are entire industries I will not do business with or work with or consult or coach for because they're built on a foundation of dishonesty, misinformation, and lies. So that's it. I'm going to catch the phone. If I can help in any way, ask. Otherwise, I'll be with you tomorrow. Bye.